So, hey y'all, this is Secular Asylum. My name is Carly Blankenship, and today I have with me Keegan Reed.
Hello.
Um, so Keegan Reed is actually host of Retrieving Sanity and is actually who we are partnered with today. So big rounds of applause and thank yous for the opportunity to be here talking to people about what they have going on in their lives, using a very specific uh, layout of conversation, which I find very odd personally. The way that my brain has constructed doing this interview process. And just another quick shout out. We also want to say a big thank you to Eclectic Healing Crafts for helping fund this. Um, like excursion of exploring people's minds and experiences.
That's awesome.
Um, so, Keegan, you want to tell us a little bit about retrieving sanity before we get started with this interview process?
First of all, Carly, thanks for having me on, and it's a pleasure to be a partner with you because it's just awesome to see what your podcast is going to be growing into. But retrieving sanity started off as a little brain seed whenever I was in rehab, and it was there that first of all I didn't listen to podcasts, and two I didn't really know what podcasts were, so I just kind of got the idea like let's start a podcast, and it's all about trying to end the stigma on mental health. And with that, I try to get people's stories of addiction or just other life circumstances, such as losing children or getting a traumatic brain injury or TBI and things like that. But just getting expert stories and stuff as well. And we're trying to show that try to show to the everyday person that mental health is not really what everyone thinks that it is. Because I thought I was a normal person until I found myself in rehab and then diagnosed with some mental health issues. And being in rehab, I'm not normal. I'm not your everyday person. But here I was thinking I was, and I'm not. And so I felt so bad that everything I knew was wrong that I wanted to help show others that everything about addiction and stuff is just not right. So,
Mhm. Uh, what was the biggest kind of, I guess, slap in the face about that with, like realizing that that stigma was wrong?
ooh, that's a good question. The biggest slap in the face is that it was me, you know, um, because the stigma is about like with mental health. If someone has depression or bipolar or BPD, so on and so forth, if they have any of these, they're labeled as crazy and someone you shouldn't trust or this, that, the third.
Dismissible.
Yeah, exactly. And so I didn't want to be labeled that. And so not only that, I had these labels for mental health. I now also had the alcoholic slash addict label. And so I was slapped with all these labels at once, and I was like, that's not who I am. And that's kind of what hit me with the stigma, is that I'm not that person. I'm not an addict slash alcoholic, but I am too at the same time, right? And it took a weird level of realization to admit that I am, but that doesn't define me. And so, but that was the thing, is that that was the slap, was my pride. It just got utterly shattered, whenever I first was like, yep, that is me. This is where I'm at. So,
Yeah, my brain is showing me I'm clairvoyant, just
hmm
in case y'all didn't know. Um, and my brain shows me images, and as you were explaining that, it was like somebody had taken like this mask that you were given as a kid to like, be like, this is your place, and this is who you are, blah blah blah. And I feel like that also kind of like demasked you. in the form of
Mm,
being able to become yourself, like
yeah.
away from like
That,
the stigmas of addiction and mental health.
no, you're right. It totally did break a mask of sorts, and it's funny you say that because while I was in rehab, we had three different phases, right? Because it was a 9 month program. So during that last 3 month, we were in a group therapy session, and we were talking about unmasking. And I had brought up the fact that unmasking is hard because I was wearing a mask for so long that my skin grew around that mask. And so to get the mask off, I have to peel off the skin. And it hurts. And that's the thing, like a lot of people just kind of go like, "Oh yeah, just take off the mask, just take it off. It's easy." Nah, it ain't easy.
No.
I've been wearing it for so long. It is my skin. It is my
Mhm.
face, or it was. But I mean, oof, yeah, that and I mean that's the thing too is that because it was my skin, because it was my face, I can't get it all off in one big chunk. It doesn't come off the like just a mask. It comes off like as if someone broke I'm having a loss of words.
No, I'm having an
Uh,
image in my head of what you're portraying as kind of like when like lizards molt and they have to do like piece by piece,
yeah,
and it just comes off when it's ready. Like there's no
yeah,
actual
and
process of how you do this. It's piece by piece what you're comfortable
hmm
with and not irritating the actual skin that's underneath.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes I'm ready to work on a piece of myself, and that piece of me is not ready for it. So it's kind
Yeah,
of
and
like
that
picking a bad
vulnerability
scab.
comes in. Yeah. Uh,
Mm,
Whenever that vulnerability hits for me, I think I'm very shaky. I get like I feel like I'm naked and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, like what is this?" Or, if I start crying when I start feeling like that, then my feeling like what I'm saying gets dismissed kind
hmm
of thing, like as if I'm just like hysterical. Um So, having said all of that and having just kind of like a little ground base of like you as a concept of a person to these people who we are talking to today, our mission here with Secular Asylum is to offer safety away from large groups, organizations that primarily outcast people because of who they are. I want to talk about life away from those things because I want people to know that they have value within themselves, just waking up, just existing. We don't have to do X, Y, and Z to be valuable. We don't have to perform to have base level value. We are valuable here as we are, in no matter what stage of molting we're in. Um, so we are going to be navigating this using the concept of the allegory of the cave, and this is a small segment out of the Plato's The Republic. Um, and if you're not familiar with that concept, I can link it in the comment section uh, on YouTube. And if you're on Spotify, I'm sure there's a way to do that, and I'm gonna figure it out. But if you go onto YouTube or anything, you can look up the allegory of the cave and have like a nice like illustrated video of what we're talking about here. But a quick rundown is there are a group of people who have been kept underground in this cave, and there is a wall. They're chained up on this side, and on the other side, there is a low going flame that is able to like cast shadow over this wall. And the guards who are keeping these people here for whatever reason I'm unfamiliar with, um, they are casting little puppets on the wall. And it is like this is their existence. This is everything that they know, even though it is constructed by somebody else in this very oppressive setting. Um, one of the people ends up getting out of the cave. And when they are out of this cave, there is this blinding light of just disorientation. And once this person comes back into like what is this? Like there are rivers, there are mountains, there's a sky, there's a sun, there's clouds, there's bugs, there's animals, there's everything. And he is just in awe, completely confused that he has spent his whole life looking at this wall with nothing on it. There is literally nothing there in comparison to what he finds outside of this cave. So he goes back and tries to find his family and tell them like they are crazy for staying here, even though, you know, they think he's crazy for saying this because they have no concept of what is even coming out of his mouth. There is no way that they could understand what this person has experienced. So, starting off, I want to talk about your cave, Keegan. What do you consider your cave that you have come from?
Man, I mean, that would be the cave, right? Of addiction and alcoholism
Mhm.
and just that mental health aspect because I was that normal person. I was that person that thought that I was average and also at the same time the exception to the rule. And so whenever I guess that was another slap in the face, right? Is that I'm not the exception to the rule to everything. Um, but yeah, the cave of addiction and alcoholism, I it's kind of fitting, right? Because it's not so much that I was placed there. I went in on like a little adventure and I kind of got lost in a sense, but at the same time, I knew where the exit was
Mhm.
at a certain point, you know. After a certain point of going so far into the cave, I knew where the exit was and I decided to keep going even though I knew I was in trouble. And then I just got lost enough to where everything became the new normal, you know?
Mhm.
And so, with that being the new normal, everything in the past was a faint memory to where it was so far and just in the past that I couldn't really recollect it enough to say this was mine and say that was everything. So, whenever I was in the throes of addiction, and I started hearing about people being sober for like X amount of days or years and whatnot. I didn't think anything of it, and so these people were telling me, you know, like what's it like being in recovery, and I was like, you know, whatever, I'm fine where I'm at, and nope, sure enough, I was not, and that was the thing, right? Rehab was like that shining light. Um, so it was kind of like, well, I'm definitely not there. And so after rehab, it's like trying to go back into the cave to find the other people that were in there and be like, hey guys, like this sucks. Y'all might want to come on out. But that's the thing too is that I know that they placed themselves there mostly intentionally. You know, not necessarily it wasn't their intention to get lost in the cave, but it was their intention to at least explore it. And I mean, that's just kind of what happens with addiction. I don't get to choose. I didn't get to choose whenever addiction took over. It just happened. And that's why I refer to addiction as the disease of choice, because I had the choice to start drinking or using. At some point along the way, I lost that choice to drink or use. And then the only way out of it is to make another choice to get out of it, you know? And so it's also a paradox in itself. It starts with a choice and it ends with a choice. And it's one of those things that I don't know. There's a whole lot to unpack in there. So sorry if I
Right.
started rambling.
No, I'm listening. I'm here for it. My brain is creating the images and it is very fluent. So
Mm-mm.
no worries on this end. I do want to ask about like, is it frustrating to you as well when people don't understand the freedom that they are not experiencing?
Yes and no. Yes, because if it's someone that I deeply care about, then there's that urgency that's behind it, right? It's like, come on, hurry up and get better because otherwise you could die. But if it's the every other, but on the other hand, I remember being in their spot. So no, I can't get that frustrated at it because in the moment that was like it was fine. Like it was not fine, but it was
I know the
fine.
exact feeling. I know the exact feeling. I
Mm,
also have struggled with addiction with substances. And well, I guess one substance in particular was my go-to, but I didn't even realize that there was an issue until it was an issue.
mm,
And uh, I think that realizing that people have to make that choice for themselves gives me like peace of mind if I ever do get frustrated because I
mm.
know that they are going through something that I couldn't possibly understand fully.
And I mean, but not understanding fully, no one really understands anything fully, you know? And that's the pitfall of recovery because a lot of people start to think that, hey, I got better and I'm going to either A, go back in the cave and help people out, or B, I'm better and I can start using myself again like a normal
Mhm,
person because I'm the exception to the rule
mhm.
because there's that little bit of pride left. But the pitfall that I'm talking about going back in the cave is that it's so much easier to pull someone down than it is to pull someone up.
Mhm.
And but at the same time, the only person that's going to help someone out of the cave is someone that was in the cave themselves.
Um, so let's talk about the sun. Let's talk about the aspect of having that blinding light. What was disorientating about coming out of the cave? Like coming out of your addiction and being like, this is how I want to do things for me now. Um,
Man, I've got to say, like the one of the most disorientating things was after 9 months of rehab. So the first 3 months were, uh, the first 6 months were from wake up to going to bed rehab. The last 3 months it was wake up, go to work Monday through Friday, rehab Saturday and Sunday. So it kind of got me back into the flow of things, but really it was getting back into the flow of things. And I say that because for some people, they're able to, not able to, rather, they don't have that 9 month reset like I did, right?
mhm,
So for me, it really was just getting thrown back into the mix of things. I forgot that life was so busy. I forgot that you have a job to take care of, you have a family to take care of, you have everything. And so that blinding light was really just because I don't. So I'm trying to think. Like that rehab is partially the sun, but it was maybe the way to the sun, if that
mhm,
would make sense.
mhm.
Because that's where I started to see the light. But man, that's a really, really good question. It actually stumps me. Um, because
Hey, if
there's
we need to come back to it too, we can do
yeah,
that
yeah.
either
Let's
later in the episode or in another interview.
yeah, let's
Um,
come back to that one because that
okay.
one's really good. I kind of want to let it sit on the back burner.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay.
So I would like to move on to exploring. So once we're out of there, we go back, we
Hmm.
try and get people out. They're like, "You're nuts. Nobody go out there with him because he's talking crazy."
Hmm.
Um, so what have you explored in your sobriety? And is it exciting and how?
What have I explored in my sobriety? That's a good one because I live in a totally different area, right? I'm still in the same state, but I might as well be in a different state because of the vast difference between Amarillo and the Dallas area. So I've got to explore the DFW area, which is awesome. And I just love driving and exploring, so that does make part of my heart and soul happy. But other things that I've explored, would have to be avenues of recovery. And the best one that I've come across so far is my home group of sorts. It's a online recovery group,
Mhm.
and it's pagans in recovery.
Right.
And so that has really bolstered my recovery. I got in them last year, so I've gotten really involved with them. And speaking of, we have a big meeting coming up later after this recording,
Right.
but exploring things comes in all sorts of forms because I've also gone hiking through the DFW area a little bit, and I've found other spots that I want to go hiking. I've gone rock climbing, and there's also a sweet program. It's called the Phoenix, and the Phoenix is a volunteer program for people in recovery. So, for instance, that rock climbing was totally free for me to go do because it's a volunteer program. They go and find places and activities for people in recovery that sign up for their program, the Phoenix, to go do things for free or at super low prices. I think it's
Wow.
actually everything for free. And so, other things I've explored, is trying to have more intimate or vulnerable interpersonal relationships because that was something that was rather lacking. And, you know, people don't really tell you that it's really hard to make friends as an adult.
Mhm. No, I just moved like 45 minutes outside of where we live, and my friends were like, "Have you made friends yet?" And I'm just like, "I have y'all. What do you mean?" I would also love to get the information for the groups that you're a part of, just so that we can have those
Hmm.
linked for anybody who is also in
Yeah.
that area or could also use resources like that, because I think that's wonderful, especially coming out of the party scene and being like up
Hmm.
until 6 in the morning and just living your life like that. People don't know what else is out in the world. And
Hmm.
as far as the rock climbing and stuff, I think that using your body and like pushing the limits of what your body is capable of, especially when you're using it as like, well, what am I going to do today? What sounds fun today?
Hmm.
And doing that, I feel like it kind of gives you a little bit of reward after you've accomplished that, which is,
Hmm.
I guess us addicts like we like the gratification of like feeling something usually immediately. And I feel like going through and doing things like hiking and rock climbing, because me and my husband also go hiking whenever we can. And ooh, I got the option to go live, so I'm going live.
Yeah.
It just now loaded.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like pushing your body into doing something to get
Oh
those
no. What was
gratifications.
it?
Pushing your body. Can you hear me?
Oh.
Do we need to wait?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
We were doing
Did
so
did
good.
what? Hmm. Riverside, I love you, but We having issues today. I think we're still live streaming too. I don't know. Let me go look. Carly Smith Blankenship. That'd be funny if, like, oh, yeah, she's live. Hi, everyone. I'm going to keep everyone entertained. We are trying to do a live stream for Secular Asylum. We are having technical issues. Don't ask me about the accent. If there was a slight accent, I didn't mean for that. Oh, hey. Oh, no. it, it just. Oh, boy. Hmm. Should I? No, because she should be able to join back in with no issue. But that's the thing. We're having issues. So I say shouldn't, but it is. Oh well. So for anyone that might be watching, definitely check out Secular Asylum whenever it's in full production swing. We are still getting everything figured out. She's back.
Wow, that was great. That was fantastic.
What happened?
Well, okay, so the thing loaded for it to go live, and
Hmm.
I'm very trigger happy. I like to push buttons.
Click, click.
Um, so I was like, "Oh yeah, let's go live." Blah blah, blah. And then it was like, "No internet connection, none for."
Oh no.
So I'll look into getting an Ethernet cable. Um, but anyway, as we were saying, hopefully this
Hmm.
will me up and not dropping me like it has before.
Hmm.
Um, I think that pushing our bodies to do something that has gratification at the end of it, whether it is just to having accomplished what you have set out to do, or like working out, being able to prove to yourself that your body is capable and uh, that we are able to do these things is very satisfying and is one of my favorite parts of raw dog.
Yeah, it's because it gives us that tangible feel that we did something, right? And I feel that that's one of the things that, as addicts and alcoholics, we are always craving that feel of of accomplishment of sorts. And I don't know about you, but whenever I would go, say, to the liquor store, going and buying my fix was almost enough to make the like jitters go away and everything, you know. So it was really weird how that would play, but I think that exercise is one of those huge things for anyone in any sort of recovery. Not to overdo it because it could definitely become an unhealthy addiction as well, or unhealthy habit. But exercise, like you said, it gives that feeling of accomplishment at the end, if we especially have a goal. And I think that a lot of people just look at exercise and just go, nah.
I can confirm.
Yeah.
I do make the effort to at least go like once a week,
Hmm.
but the rest of the 6 days, I'm like,
Yeah. I mean that's totally fair. I mean, our society is not like it used to be, right? Our bodies don't need all that physical exertion, depending on what jobs we have. But at the same time, our there is like I think minimal operating efficiency, and exercise helps us maintain that minimal.
going into my next question. So in the aspects to returning to the cave,
Hmm.
um, did you experience any ostracization if you returned at all?
I guess I can say that I definitely have, because that group that I mentioned before, I don't follow a normal religious path, and the well, rehab, I think they like to actually go by ministry now. And so, if that tells you anything,
Mhm.
um, I'm a pagan, and so they obviously just kind of shunned me away without shunning me away.
Yeah, like didn't know what to
And
do with you.
yeah, they're like, because they see me and they don't. And these are some of the people that actually uh, envelop all of Christ's teachings, like take in the sick, the poor, and all that, feed them, clothe them, because this 9 month rehab was completely free. 9 months of my life taken care of so that I could get my shit together,
Mhm.
you know. But whenever I found the group that I'm in, I made a Facebook post and because we had a flyer for it trying to let people know like, hey, if you need a group and you're not trying to find one that has a super religious overtone, you can come over here. And I lost a sponsee from it because I had a sponsee with that program who was in their sober living, and they said, what was it? You're his sponsor, but we don't know what you're trying to put in his head, so we can't let you be a sponsor. And I was
Uh,
like, what? And but that's the thing is that I'm working through the 12 steps. I'm not sitting there reading him mythology and stuff,
right,
And even then, it's like you're doing the same thing whenever you read your Bible. Just
right.
saying.
Well, I mean, it is possible
But
to express help for other people without pushing
hmm
personal ideals on. And I don't think that
yeah,
that's very recognized within religious groups.
no, it's not. And that's the thing is that whenever I was there, I was listening to what the pastor was saying all the time because, every day was a Bible study and Bible classes. And so I was able to hear truths. But the thing was, is that you can put the title between, like, for whatever there, because they're spiritual truths. It's not a religious truth. I mean, in a sense, it is, but
Mhm.
it's a spiritual truth, and that's what I was listening for. I was still getting messages, but the thing was, is that they are just a universal message, and that's what I'm trying to. That's what the 12 steps are essentially. They're meant to be used for anything because you
Mhm.
have AA for alcoholics, you have CA for people that like Coke, you have MMA, or is it MA? I think for well, there's MA for marijuana, and then MAA or something, or MMA for meth. So you basically have all these different programs, and so it that's the thing is that it's not a religious aspect, but because they're so religiously based, they can't really stray off of it. And I think that's what the thing was.
I,
Oh,
I
I was
think
just
that
saying,
would be upsetting. Sorry.
oh, you're fine. It did give me a chance to work a fourth step with my sponsor. So,
Yeah. Nice. I think that groups like that are based mostly around finding something bigger than yourself. And
mm-hmm,
I feel like religion is the go to. There's something more
mm-hmm,
than just you. Um,
mm-hmm.
I think with me personally, I didn't have to go through those steps because I was ripped out of addiction with being pregnant. Oh shoot, lost my train of thought. Uh, Started thinking about like the trauma of giving birth. um, but with that, like I never really thought about a higher power before that. Like, I mean, yeah, people talk about, religion and stuff like that, God and whatnot, but I've never really connected with that. It's always been that we are connected in this way that is indescribable. I feel it,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't ever know how to describe it. And I get little downloads here and there,
Mm-hmm.
which are like images that drop into my brain from who knows where, and like I get the structural concept of the universe, but that's my personal beliefs because that's what's real for me, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And with the aspect of religion inside of, setting a bigger picture up for people who are dealing with addiction, like actively. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
understand how that's helpful, but also pushing you away
Mm-hmm.
from a sponsee because of your personal beliefs and stuff. I do think that
Mm-hmm.
that counts as that ostracization, and um, I feel like that could affect people's outcome on being able to maintain sobriety. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's my take on it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that while I was there were other people that weren't necessarily following that religious path either.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just there because they needed help, and that's where help was available and offered.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they took. So,
I think that it is a
uh,
good thing that they allowed that.
mm-hmm,
That they are in fact doing the walking of the
mm-hmm,
religion and not just the talking aspect of it.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I will say that their last admittance question was, "Do you believe in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?" And my response was left unfinished because I just replied with, "I was born and raised Catholic," and they said, "Welcome in."
you do what you gotta do.
they, yeah, I was about to be completely honest. I was about to be completely honest and everything, and so I just said I was born and raised Catholic, and I was cut off mid sentence, and so I just was like, okay,
They're like, hold on,
I
hold
told,
on.
yeah, don't say anything more.
So, moving on
Mm-hmm.
to the next question. What
Mm-hmm.
is the most exciting activity you've discovered or rediscovered? And by activity, I guess that could also be like mindset, through this
Mm.
journey of becoming sober and maintaining that for yourself and your loved ones.
The most exciting,
Hmm.
honestly, it's been the podcast.
Nice.
Because it's gone in so many directions so quick that I never knew which way it was going to go. Like it's actually on some radio and TV stations, which had you told me that whenever I first started it, I would have been like, you're crazy,
Hmm.
you know, and it started off at 10, 15, 20-minute episodes and now they're at an hour long. But the thing is that I get to speak with all these super interesting people that have
Hmm.
different insights on recovery, different insights on personal growth, and different modalities on how to reach that same end goal. And I mean, it's just there's so many things with it that like I get to play around with my creative side. I get to play around with my technology side. I get to play around with the extroverted side whenever he decides he wants to show up, you know?
Hmm.
And so it's got a whole lot of different aspects going into one thing, and it keeps me engaged enough to where I can jump in it, but my problem is that I like to jump headfirst into things, and I'll burn myself out on them.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to find that balance of
Yeah.
making a routine and everything,
Hmm.
and it's difficult, but at the same time, I'm still having a whole lot of fun with it.
Hmm.
But I almost made the mistake of making it this kind of feel like work, you know, and whenever I did that, my mindset started to switch, and I was starting to get that procrastination feel, just like, yeah, you know, I don't need to do that today. I'll just go do something else.
Hmm.
But whenever I actually push through and everything, it's just great. So I'd have to say podcasting, and also, yeah, again, because of the connections and stuff, the networking that goes on with it. I think that that's probably my favorite part with it.
If y'all haven't already, go over to Retrieving Sanity on most all platforms, and check
Yeah.
those out because there are some really interesting people that Keegan has interviewed, and there's even one Holocaust survivor. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Crazy story, and I highly recommend it. Um, so, moving a little bit off topic because I'm just curious about everything strange, unusual, paranormal. Have you experienced anything strange or even paranormal out there on your travels?
Um, so okay, I'll do all two of them. One of them will be like kind of out there, I guess. But like, I guess I'll ask a question before I do this one. Do you believe in skinwalkers?
I do not whistle at night. So, short answer, I believe that there are so many creatures out there that we don't know what they
Hmm.
are, and sometimes my dog looks a little weird when he comes back inside,
Yeah.
and it spooks me.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing is that we don't know, like, I would say we don't even know half of like the species on the earth, right? Like
Mhm.
we like to think we do, but we have no idea. And the next discovery just blows our mind that much more. And so like this one, uh, I think was a skinwalker, right? So this happened right before I went into rehab. So I'm living with my cousin. He lives. uh, so, little backstory: I got kicked out of my apartment, going through a divorce. Living with my cousin who lives out in the country. Not like all super alone, like 3 minutes to the closest neighbor country, but like still like a little ways until you get like if you walk to someone's house, it still take you a couple minutes, but not that long, you know. But regardless, there's one night I'm standing on his porch smoking some cigarettes, and I'm just sitting there. And next thing I know, I look over and there's a girl sitting on the bench in the front yard, and I was like, it's like, what's going on? So first of all, it was a full moon. I didn't really realize that until later. But she's sitting there and she's crying, and I was like, so again, mind you, I'm drunk, but I've been a drunkard for so long. I know what I'm seeing. And so I'm trying to be a nice guy. I'm like, hey, like, what's wrong? And she's not making any sense. And I was like, okay, so I like sit on the opposite side of the bench, like, just, hey, you okay? And she murders something about a party or something, and I was like, what is going on? Like, there's not a party going on. I don't see an exuberant amount of cars anywhere, no nothing. And so whenever I actually finally get a look at her eyes, so she has the normal pupil like everyone else, but around the pupil were like smaller ones, but like they were ovals, you know? And so they were all around it. And the thing was, is that her eye was like a super yellow, like the
Mhm.
colored part
Mhm.
was a yellow gold of sorts. And because I remember sitting there and I was like, why are her eyes so bright? And so it's a full moon, and her eyes are like a super yellow color. Not the whites, the colored parts. I just want to make that clear to anyone listening.
Mhm.
And so I'm sitting there and I was just kind of like, what is going on? And so one of the first and only things that I actually was able to really get a clear sentence out of her was, "Can I come inside?" And I was like, "This isn't my house, so no. Like, let me go check with my cousin, I guess." So I go up and I go and open the front door, and he's of course asleep. So I'm like, I'm not about to let her in. So I close the door and start walking towards the bench. And I'm like, no, he's asleep. I can't let you in. So she gets up, starts running. And I was like, okay. So she's going down the street. And next thing I know, she just like gets taller and taller and taller. And her arms and legs were just like super slender and long. And I was like, what? And just uh, was running on the street and dashes off into the woods. And I was like, and I mean, she covered distance. I mean, like at the end of the road before I knew it, and off into the woods. And so I'm sitting there like, why did what just happen? And I didn't really think too much more about it until the next day, because then I
Yeah.
was like, did that really happen? And I'm just like, I went and told my cousin. He's like, "Nah, that was just a crackhead." And I was like, "Dude, I don't know about what kind of crack does that."
It's like, what is she smoking? Because I don't know.
Uh, yeah, and like it was the weirdest thing, and I mean that was probably the most recent physical. Oh no, then the other one. Okay, so one quick one.
Hmm.
Last year I went to the Sherwood Renaissance Fair,
Hmm.
and while I was there, it's my first time being there. I didn't know what was all going on. A friend from that recovery group invited me down there,
Hmm.
and so I'm sitting at one of the shows, and there's a guy in a pirate outfit comes up to me and stuff. Him and I are kind of singing this sea shanties that are
Hmm.
going along, and then one comes on that I don't know, and he's kind of teaching me the lyrics, and we shake hands and stuff, and he's Captain Redbeard, and he was like, "I know it's strange because I have a white beard," and sure enough, he had that like little bit of red over here, but the rest of it was like totally white,
Hmm.
super blue eyes and stuff. And so I was like, okay, cool, you know. And then he eventually wandered off, and then never saw him again. And then I looked down at my feet, and there's a little gravestone that says Captain Redbeard. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And so I didn't, again, I was like, okay. And so I met up with my friend near the end of the festival and everything. And I was like, I was asking, like, hey, they asked me, did you see anything? And I was like, I saw Captain Redbeard. And she was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, can you tell me about him? She was like, yeah, he was a drunkard here that came every year. And, you know, we called him Captain Redbeard, but he had a white beard. And I was like, hmm, hmm. So either there was a drunkard going around just playing jokes on people that can
Hmm.
disappear really quick, or something else happened. But I mean, I'm totally up for believing I talked to Captain Redbeard the ghost.
Right, right. Yeah, why not?
So yeah,
Well, Keegan, I have really enjoyed this interview, and I'm so excited to see where this podcast goes.
hmm
Um, Everybody tune in on Tuesdays. I will be doing live tarot card readings for the collective. And if you want to get a hold of us, I am at secularasylum.com. I am also available on Eclectic Healing Crafts Facebook. I'm available on most platforms. I haven't made my way over to Instagram yet. Um, Keegan is available over on retrievingsanity.com. And I can't wait to talk to everybody next week.
awesome. Thank you very much, Carly, for having me on, and I'm super excited to see where your show goes.
Yes, me too. Oh yeah. Y'all stay tuned because after a year I am going to be giving my story of my cave and what I experienced through life, and we will be kicking off the next season with a different topic um, guide as we talk to all of our people here. So stay spooky and yeah, haven't really thought of an outro yet, but we will get there.
You'll get there,
Much love, y'all. Bye.
Sean.